He could have been free, but he was a man of a unique and independent spirit. He didn't want to be under any sort of probationary rule. He felt that he wanted to go out, that he had, as it were, paid his society for what he had done.
Every single day, I drop a fresh video diving deep into the lives of Hollywood's golden age legends. If this kind of old school drama fascinates you, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, or leave a comment. It's free and means the world to me. Now, let's get into it. Burt Lancaster wasn't just a movie star. He was the heart and conscience of Hollywood. His roles in Atlantic City and Elmer Gantry made him the symbol of raw truth and integrity. But what if I told you there was another side to Burt? A darker, more shocking side hidden in a secret notebook that no one was ever supposed to see. Inside that notebook, Burt spilled the names of the stars he believed were the worst of the golden age. People who, according to him, clawed their way to fame through cruelty, betrayal, and manipulation so twisted he couldn't stay silent anymore. These weren't just rumors. They were accusations that could ruin legacies forever. Were these cold, hard truths from a man who'd seen it all, or were they bitter confessions from a legend haunted by old grudges? Either way, the names on that list will make your jaw drop. At the top of that list, none other than Kirk Douglas, the man Burt feared most. Lancaster labeled him the Predator, a title that still echoes with unease. Hollywood worshipped Douglas for his intensity and charisma, but Burt saw what others didn't. A man who thrived on control, using his power to intimidate and dominate anyone who stood in his way. The tension between them boiled over in the late 1950s when Burt noticed Douglas pulling strings behind studio doors, deciding not just the fate of films, but of people. One event burned into Burt's mind forever: the mysterious removal of young actress Lisa Avery from a major 1959 project. Burt didn't mince words in his notes. He wrote, "She said no," and he made her disappear. It wasn't gossip, it was a direct accusation. To Burt, this was proof that Douglas didn't just chase success. He crushed anyone who got in his path, and from that day on, Burt's respect for him turned into pure disgust. Their rivalry didn't just simmer, it exploded on the set of Gunfight at the OK Corral. Kirk Douglas kept sticking his nose where it didn't belong, whispering to producers, swapping out actors he didn't like, and demanding endless reshoots just to steal more screen time for himself. Burt tried to handle it behind closed doors, but when he confronted Kirk, Douglas hit him with a smirk that could freeze a room. "This town rewards men who take what they want, Burt." That single line said it all. It confirmed what Burt already feared: the arrogance, the hunger for power, and the total lack of remorse. From that day on, their feud was no secret. Hollywood insiders knew. These two weren't just rivals. They were enemies locked in a Cold War under the spotlight. Douglas refused to do joint interviews. Burt dodged rehearsals if Kirk was around. At glitzy studio dinners, they sat as far apart as possible, two Hollywood titans acting like kings guarding rival kingdoms. One executive even admitted, if both were invited, one would always cancel. That's how deep the grudge ran. By the late 1980s, nothing had changed. Not a single word of forgiveness. Time didn't mellow either of them. Lancaster skipped every one of Kirk's honorary events, and Douglas, in turn, erased Burt's name completely from his memoirs. That silence screamed louder than any argument ever could. Now comes name number 2, Elizabeth Taylor, the unstoppable queen who ruled Hollywood through sheer chaos. Drama followed her like a shadow, but what really stunned people was how fiercely she clashed with Burt Lancaster. He saw a truth in her that others wouldn't dare say out loud. And the breaking point? It came in 1962, right in front of hundreds of stunned crew members during the wild, disaster-plagued shoot of Cleopatra. When Elizabeth Taylor stormed onto the Cleopatra set, she instantly spotted another actress wearing a gown that looked a little too similar to hers, and that was it. She exploded with such rage that filming was shut down for nearly half a day. Burt later summed it up perfectly. She didn't throw tantrums. She declared war. To Taylor, a film set wasn't just a workplace. It was her battlefield. Everyone else? Just soldiers caught in the blast. She'd hold up entire scenes for hours, skip fittings without warning, and sometimes just vanish, leaving the whole crew stranded and scrambling. Burt couldn't stand it. From veteran directors to nervous assistants, no one dared cross her, and that power terrified him. But what really turned Burt against her came later, during her explosive years with Richard Burton. She didn't just influence him, she took control of his entire career. Scripts were tossed aside before Burton even saw them, and co-stars mysteriously vanished from productions whenever Taylor felt threatened by their chemistry. One casting director even remembered her flipping through a call sheet and saying, "Not him, I don't like his face." Within hours, that actor was gone, fired without explanation. To Burt, this was the final straw. He saw it as proof that Taylor cared more about control than craft, more about power than passion. In his eyes, she ruled Hollywood through manipulation and spectacle, not talent and teamwork. And decades later, whenever someone dared mention her name in interviews, Burt's tone would change instantly, sharp, cold, and full of old resentment. There was never a reunion, no forgiveness, no mellowing with time, just Burt's unshakable belief that Elizabeth Taylor represented a kind of destructive power he could never accept. He carried that resentment to the very end, refusing to let her name pass without a sting. Then came number 3, Marilyn Monroe, the star who turned fragility into a weapon. She wasn't just famous. She knew the power she had over a room, and she used it like a blade wrapped in silk. One day, Monroe showed up to set 3 hours late, looked around at her co-stars, and casually said she wasn't ready to work because the energy felt wrong. That single moment summed it all up for Burt Lancaster. He didn't see a misunderstood icon. He saw someone who thought the entire machine of Hollywood should bend to her moods. Her beauty was undeniable, but her chaos, unforgivable. The moment that locked his resentment in place came during the stormy filming of Some Like It Hot in 1959. The set was buzzing, lights blazing, crew sweating, but Monroe, gone. No warning, no message. Over 100 people stood waiting in the heat, watching hours slip away. Then, just as suddenly, she reappeared, calm, smiling, and unapologetic. And to top it off, she demanded rewrites for a scene that hadn't even been filmed yet. Burt later wrote, "Delay was her weapon. Confusion was her shield." That line said everything. To him, professionalism meant discipline, and Monroe shattered that code. What enraged him most wasn't just her lateness, it was the chaos that followed her like a curse. Entire storylines were rewritten overnight because she doubted a line or feared another actress might steal the spotlight. To Burt, Monroe didn't just disrupt films. She reshaped Hollywood's patience, one meltdown at a time. Everyone around Marilyn Monroe learned to walk on eggshells just to keep her from breaking. And the wild part, Marilyn knew it. Behind the scenes, her charm turned into something far more calculated. She kept private ties with powerful studio executives, and whenever she wanted someone gone, it just happened. An actor she disliked would suddenly be branded difficult and quietly removed from the project without explanation. Burt despised this more than anything. To him, it wasn't just Hollywood politics, it was career assassination done in silence. People were losing their jobs because of a single frown from Monroe. One insider even said, "If she frowned, someone lost their job." That line haunted him. While the world later crowned her a tragic figure, the broken beauty who never found peace, Burt refused to buy into that story. He believed Hollywood protected her at everyone else's expense, covering her chaos with sympathy, while others paid the price in time, money, and mental toll. To him, Monroe's legacy wasn't just glitter. It was collateral damage dressed in glamour. Then came number 4, Spencer Tracy, the tyrant who led by terror. People didn't whisper his name out of respect. They whispered it because they were scared stiff. That raw fear was exactly why Burt couldn't stand him. He had zero tolerance for actors who mistreated crews, but Tracy, he turned cruelty into an art form. Anyone who worked too close to him knew one wrong word could set him off like a bomb. The moment that sealed Burt's disgust came one afternoon when he noticed a young makeup artist trembling the second Tracy walked in. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't finish her work. Burt quietly asked why, and she whispered, "He threw a chair at the last girl." Tracy didn't apologize. He didn't even blink. From that day on, Burt saw him for what he truly was, not a legend, but a bully wrapped in stardom. He didn't even remember doing it. And that, to Burt, was the most unforgivable part. Violence had become so natural for Spencer Tracy that it turned into something forgettable. That kind of cruelty wasn't just anger. It was routine. During the filming of Judgment at Nuremberg, Tracy's temper reached a terrifying new level. His rage came out of nowhere, sharp, cold, and always directed at the weakest person in the room. He'd back young actors into corners, forcing them to repeat lines again and again until they cracked under pressure. One exhausted performer once admitted to Burt, "He doesn't want the scene to work. He wants me to break." That single confession lit a fire of contempt in Burt like never before. But what disgusted him even more than Tracy's outbursts was the man's manipulation. Whenever someone stood up to him, Tracy would suddenly switch gears, crying, threatening to quit, or giving dramatic speeches about how no one understood his process. It was psychological warfare dressed up as artistry. Directors gave in, producers begged him to stay. The rest of the cast just held their breath, waiting for the next explosion. Burt wrote in his journal, "He punished resistance and rewarded fear." Those words said everything about what he saw in Tracy. A man who used power not to inspire, but to control. Offset things were no better. Tracy refused to greet Burt in public, and at guild meetings, Burt made sure to return the disrespect by never honoring Tracy during tributes. Their hostility was open, raw, and permanent. To Lancaster, Tracy wasn't a tortured genius. He was a tyrant whose presence poisoned every room he entered. And now we reach number 5, Mickey Rooney. The joker who thrived on cruelty. The quickest way to understand why Burt loathed him. Simple. Mickey laughed when other people broke. He didn't just joke. He enjoyed watching others crumble, and that to Burt was a whole new level of heartless. Mickey Rooney didn't hide his cruelty behind whispers. He showed it off like it was part of his act. Behind closed doors, out in the open, it didn't matter. He mocked people proudly and did it over and over again. Burt could handle ego, even chaos, and he'd seen violence plenty of times. But cruelty disguised as comedy, that was the one sin he could never forgive. The moment that lit the fuse between them happened at MGM in the late 1960s. Burt walked into a soundstage expecting a meeting, and instead, he stepped straight into a scene that would haunt him forever. There was Rooney, standing in the center of the set, laughing as he mimicked a background actor's stutter. Crew members turned away in shame, no one daring to stop him. The young actor's face burned red before he finally broke and walked off set in tears. Rooney smirked and yelled after him, "If you can't take a joke, you shouldn't be in this business." Most people stayed silent, pretending it was just another Mickey moment. But to Burt, it was pure ugliness. He saw it as cruelty dressed up in laughter, humiliation passed off as entertainment. And the worst part? It wasn't rare. Rooney's pattern was well known. He targeted the most vulnerable, women assistants, stand-ins, and young actors still trying to find their footing. One script supervisor once told Burt, "You pray he doesn't notice you. If he does, you're done for the day." That said it all, but Rooney's cruelty didn't stop on set. His personal life was just as chaotic. His marriages revealed a darker reality, full of emotional manipulation, wild mood swings, and explosive confrontations. What infuriated Burt most was how Hollywood brushed it off with a shrug. That's just Mickey being Mickey, as if fame made it all okay. Their feud hit its peak during a charity gala in the 1970s when Rooney decided to humiliate Burt in front of a full audience, mocking his serious acting style and calling him the man who forgot how to smile. That was the moment Burt's patience snapped, and his disgust for Mickey Rooney became permanent. Instead of laughing along, Burt hit Mickey Rooney with a cold, unflinching stare that froze the entire table. The room went silent. No one dared make eye contact. From that night on, Burt made one thing clear. He would never share a stage, an interview, or even a camera frame with Mickey Rooney again. Whenever producers tried to pair them for publicity, his answer never changed. "I don't work with men who hurt people for sport." There was never reconciliation, no handshake, no mellowing with time. their hatred stayed sharp as the day it began. Even decades later, insiders claimed that whenever Rooney's name came up, Burt's expression hardened instantly, the air around him turning ice cold. To Burt Lancaster, some people in Hollywood weren't misunderstood. They were merciless. So now that you've heard Burt's shocking revelations, which name from his secret list stunned you the most? Do you think these stars were truly as dark as he believed? Or were they just victims of Hollywood's endless web of rumors and power games? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold, jaw-dropping stories from Hollywood's golden age.